the high school level, we rarely talk about anymore. How about Julian Lewis, a former #1 player in the 2025 class? He recycles this morning to 2024, the USC commit from the state of Georgia, Carrollton High School, one of the best resumes there is out there per any position, but especially at the quarterback position. Drew, we've seen this guy live a couple times. We've seen him throw the rock. You look at USC's quarterback situation now more than ever. It says, all right, we've kind of seen this in the works. If you kind of do your due diligence on Julian Lewis, it makes sense that he would reclassify. But you got Miller Moss there, and you got Jade Maeva and Malachi Nelson. He's off to Boise State. So that once a very talented quarterback room in Los Angeles, seems like there is a void for a guy like Julian Lewis to step in and at least sell the idea of saying, hey, Julian Lewis, we feel like you can come in here and compete from day one for the starting job.
Yeah, we'll move into 2025, not 2024. I think you said 2024. It's all good. All good. Look, he's the first big name in the 2026 cycle to reclass. Julian Lewis will certainly not be the last of it. We keep saying that this trend is here to stay. And I think especially with the quarterback position, field goal posts have moved, right? The dream or the goal for many is no longer, hey, I got to get to the NFL as fast as possible. Let's get to college fast as possible. And yes, Julian Lewis, now a member of the 2025 class. We pegged him, or I should say moved him. He debuts in those 2025 rankings at number 14 overall, number 4 quarterback. And I actually went through and charted all of the quarterbacks that we have in the top 2, 4, 7 for the 2025 cycle. Julian statistically ranks up there near the top in a lot of different categories. I mean, this is a guy that has played a ton of football in Georgia's highest classification, and that's why he is ranked so high. I mean, we're talking about someone that is 25-3 at Carrollton, played for a state title as a freshman, didn't get us far in the playoffs here as a sophomore, but he's a Max Preps National Freshman of the Year, Max Preps National Sophomore of the Year. Won't have the opportunity to be the Max Preps Junior of the Year, but I guess he can win the national award this upcoming fall. Cooper, 10.12 yards per attempt. That's one of the best marks out there. Signifies, hey, he pushes the ball down the field. And then that 25-3 record, we want winners. So Julian Lewis coming in at number 4 in our quarterback rankings. He's behind Bryce Underwood. He's behind George McIntyre. Then he's behind Ohio State commit Tavian St. Clair. All 3 of those guys are over 6'3", multi-sport athletes. Julian Lewis, I think the big knock on him right now is going to be, might not be the biggest individual, listed at 6'1". I think he's a little bit closer to 6 foot, but he can whip it around the field, right? He can throw on the run, distribute it, and he's going to be. It's going to be fun to see how these quarterbacks, the jockeying between them. Because remember, now we can get Julian Lewis at this upcoming Elite 11 finals, and then he's going to play his final season. So he's going to leave high school as a 3-year starter. And I think that's why we feel good about him.
A lot to like from a cerebral standpoint as well. You get around him. And Drew, I think you make a good point when you compare him to the other 3 quarterbacks. I think a lot of people would say, well, he's moving from 26 to 25. How do you justify a 13-spot drop? Well, listen, at the end of the day, Bryce Underwood is a guy that we feel very good about, not only from a physical standpoint, but he's played a lot of football and technically a guy that could be a 2026 as well. You go down the list, George McIntyre, multi-sport guy, averaged more than 10 points on the hardwood as well, and a guy that's got a ton of room to grow physically. And then Tavian St. Clair, maybe one of my favorite guys in the class, currently committed to Ohio State. All those guys have a physical trajectory, a clear path in front of them that seems quite obvious, right, when you watch these guys and then you marry it up, seeing them in person. The one knock on Julian Lewis is, Drew, is I think it's more high floor than ceiling. So, yeah, you might get a guy that could step in and for right now, let's call it L.A., and be able to be experienced enough to go in and compete day one. But in terms of how that projects to NFL upside and Sunday upside, which is our job to evaluate that, I think that's going to be a looming question for him down the line. And quite honestly, that's going to be something that we're going to have to figure out with him over the next year or so.
Yeah, I mean, he's a full field reader, right? Like, I think he's tailor-made for an up-tempo attack, hey, that wants to throw it 35, 40 yards a game, get the playmakers involved. Like, I think he fits Lincoln Riley's system to a T. Now, here's the thing. Steve Wilfong, director of recruiting at 24/7 Sports, he's reported that a number of other schools are looking at Julian Lewis. Georgia is involved. Indiana, have you seen Indiana listed in a few of these articles? I think that's pretty funny. Alabama. I mean, there's a bunch of people that are looking at Julian Lewis. So he's also one you need to track to see where does he end up. I think Lincoln Riley, maybe some pressure under that seat where that could open the door for another program to make a move. And we have no idea what the coaching carousel is going to look like in this time next year in terms of the moving pieces with Julian Lewis. Hey, Coop, you said it. Bryce Underwood and Julian Lewis, I think they are 1 month apart in age. They are both 16 years old. So, they're the same age. And you look at Bryce, he has started 40 games at the prep level there up in Michigan.
So let's play a little hypothetical, and then we'll get out of there on this note. We've talked a lot about Kalen DeBoer and Alabama, right? You think about the 3 quarterbacks ahead of Julian Lewis in 2025. You got Bryce Underwood currently committed to LSU. He's off the board. George McIntyre, it seems like he's going to make a decision relatively soon here, with Tennessee being in a really good spot for him. Alabama also in a spot. We'll see what happens with Kalen DeBoer now in the driver's seat. Tavian St. Clair to Ohio State. In your opinion, how would a guy like Julian Lewis, if he ever did come off his commitment to USC, fit in a Kalen DeBoer Alabama offense?
I want to know what's going to happen with Austin Mack, right? Austin Mack in the transfer portal. I think we saw it with Penix, right, in terms of what he was able to do with that all-star cast of wide receivers, some of which you recruited in your time when you were there in Seattle. I think it would make sense to me. But what happens with Ryan Grubbs after this upcoming year? What does Alabama's offense look like? And it seems like anytime there's an opening, Ryan Grubbs is mentioned as not only a play caller but a potential head coach. So I think it would certainly he could be a fit there in Tuscaloosa, maybe more so of a fit than Julian Sayin, who Alabama signed here in the 2024 cycle and went through bowl practices. I think he would fit that offense maybe a little bit better, but that's just, shooting from the hip, not really diving into the tape. Would you say it's fair to say that the 2025 cycle, listen, I really like those 4 names at the top of the board, but once you get past that first year, it's a relatively strong class, right? You kind of go down the list a little bit. Husan Longstreet, Antoine Hill, Keely Smith. In this class, we've looked at guys maybe like Walker White, who signed with Auburn, some other guys that have emerged late, Ethan Grunkemeyer to Penn State, that we have felt, all right, maybe they have another jump in them. Maybe they have another leap. And I'm not saying that that couldn't happen, maybe with a name that we don't even know yet. But some of the guys that are on our radar, Drew, I'm not looking at these guys and saying, hey, I don't know if they got that top 32 clay in them. Yeah, I'm kind of done. You mentioned it. We're digging into not digging in. We're finalizing our 2024 rankings here, but doing some preliminary, not research, but scouting of the 2025 quarterbacks. I would agree with you, but I do think there are there's some movers out there. Deuce Knight, Notre Dame commit. I think he's got a monster ceiling. Statistically, hasn't been there just yet. Matt Zollers up in Pennsylvania. Really like what I've seen from him. And then, Camario Taylor, Carter Smith. There's some athletic guys out there. I think we'll have a better feeling to that question 2 months from now, right? After we get some camps in us, get some time to really dig into the group. But yes, right now there seems to be a big 4 at the top and then a sizable gap. But there are some promising names out there, I think.
Long way to go, guys. We appreciate you sticking with us today. Like I said, a lot happening in college football, especially at the top of the mountaintop with Alabama, Nick Saban, and Kalen DeBoer. For Andrew Ivins, I'm Cooper Patagno. One last time, make sure to like and subscribe to the show. We will be back here same time tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern time. Stay warm out there. See you next time.